Can long-term sobriety really be that simple? Really? As complicated as it may seem in all of its simplicity, not drinking and not using is the number one technique people use to get long-term sobriety and clean time. As many times as people hear this, and as many times as it is said, it rarely gets through to the right ears. So, my question is this: do people need to hear thousands of words, or do they need to hear the same few words 1,000 times? Not drinking can be a lot harder than it sounds, even though it seems so easy. This is why there is only a small percentage of people that want to stop using that actually stop. But there is an even larger percentage of people that stop drinking that has not been statistically analyzed. And the reason being is if people made sobriety sound easy, it would fall on deaf ears. To sum up, the term "don't drink" would be to allow the reader to interpret it on their own terms. Just read the words, take them in, let them soak in, and then determine what they really mean to you as an individual. Some people like to place a date on their last drink. And then they drink again. So, was it really their last drink, or was there something lurking deep down inside, waiting? The dreaded first drink. Just how do you stay away from the first drink, and just what does that mean? Well, the first thing you might want to do is consider whether or not you have had your last drink. If you drink again, then did you really have your last drink, or was it just an in-between drink? Staying away from the first drink is a lot of like trying to not think of a pink elephant. Have you ever tried to not think of something and you always end up thinking of that thing you were trying to avoid? That which we resist persists. And this rings true with avoidance. Maybe a better way to achieve a long-term recovery goal would be to accept the fact that there is alcohol out there and it is none of our business. Rather than trying to avoid the first drink, maybe we should just not have one. And that brings us back to don't drink, which in turn is a double-edged sword. So as simple as it may seem to get long-term sobriety, there are roadblocks, walls and challenges that must be overcome. And that is exactly what this book is about. Overcoming certain mindsets that make it difficult for the successful able-minded person to reach. In many denominations, there is a principle of 24 hours a day. You will find this type of idea in many philosophies and indoctrinations. The problem is, it doesn't take 24 hours to take a drink. It doesn't even take 24 seconds, it literally happens in a moment. And it is the time leading up to that moment that is important. It is the difference between taking the drink and not taking the drink. Notice that we said the drink and not a drink. Taking the drink is what everyone seems to be trying to avoid, and it is also what everyone is afraid of experiencing. Is there a better way? We think so. The best way to get through a 24-hour period is one moment at a time. So how exactly does one get in the moment, and how does one stay in the moment? Well, the best way I can think of is to consistently realize that you are not in the moment. The moment you realize you are not in the moment, you are in the moment. Not easily done, but once realized it brings forth joy and happiness. More on that later. One principle to joy is to accept the moment as it is, in its completeness. As we said before, the best way to get in the moment is to first realize that you are not in the moment. Once you accomplish that, then what? Well, now the goal is to stay in the moment. A few techniques we use here at You Are So Worth It is to remember a time when you were really clear that all is well. Try to find that one moment in your life that you can remember that you were actually one with the sky, or a flower, or just your surroundings. If you can call that back into your consciousness, you can use that as a tool. Another way to stay in the moment is focus all of your awareness on your immediate surroundings using the awareness exercise. To many people, alcoholism is a disease. As a matter of fact, the Mayo Clinic staff wrote an article in December of 2014 stating that alcoholism is a chronic and often progressive disease. However, later in the same article, the Mayo Clinic staff suggests that denying that you have a problem is usually part of alcoholism. So if there is no physical gene to suggest alcoholism, the diagnosis must come from the patient. And this is where the dilemma lies. How do we determine whether or not an individual has alcoholism or drug addiction, or if it is just a phase? This is a question that can go unanswered, and has gone unanswered for many people who continue to get long-term sobriety and clean time. There really is no reason to have the facts when it comes to this, because it is an endless dialogue. But admitting there is a problem, or the possibility of a problem, is the beginning to a long and happy life. It doesn't really matter whether or not alcoholism is a disease. Having the information one way or another is not helpful and can actually hinder an individual's healing. So we would like to stay clear of this query. It is best just to realize there is a problem and it must be addressed in order to move forward. You can read many books and articles about triggers. But there is only one true trigger that will awaken addiction, and that is putting alcohol or drugs in your body. Without the first drink or drug, you will get long-term sobriety. It is inevitable. Many people believe that relapse is drinking again. But consider the mindset of a person before they drink. Many times over there have been people with 30, 40 or even over 50 years of sobriety that have used again. And it isn't because one day they suddenly decided to drink again. It is because the mindset of gratitude and graciousness had stopped months or even years before they picked up that drink. Many people relapse and don't drink again. Relapse is actually a lapse in thought and actions rather than the action of picking up a drink or drug. Some of the things we will be discussing later on in this book are simple techniques to maintain the mindset. Or in other words, relapse prevention. Getting active, staying active. There are many activities one can take to keep their mind off of alcohol and drugs, but we mean a different type of activity. The activity we are discussing here is writing. Writing is going to be the one tool you will hear in every program out there. There are always different tips and techniques, but our only suggestion is for you to write. It doesn't matter what you write, what matters is that you write. Put pen to paper. If you were to write down one word on a piece of paper, you will have done more than 87% of people in recovery. For some reason, unbeknownst to me, people will not put pen to paper. It really isn't that difficult, but it can be one of the most strenuous and demanding processes at task. If there was one thing you were to get out of this book, it would be to write. Whether or not you have alcoholism, drug addiction, or you are just a loved one trying to get some ideas. Do the writing until you find the quiet. And when the quiet comes, it will be wonderful. There are two mindsets that we need to be aware of when it comes to long-term sobriety. 1. Lower awareness. 2. Higher awareness. 1. Lower awareness. Lower awareness would be considered thoughts and actions that don't benefit the individual, even if there is kindness, love and tolerance involved, and they have good motives. Many times individuals think they are doing the right thing and being kind when in all actuality it is creating a conflict. For example, if one person wants to plan out the day and the other person just wants to wing it, this might generate an unpleasant conversation. Both could be in the right when it comes to having an enjoyable time, and both might see the benefit of being spontaneous or planned, but the thought plane that is driving the conversation is careening on a crash course to destruction. 2. Higher awareness. Higher awareness, on the other hand, can control the same topic in conversation no matter which party is experiencing the higher thought plane. Scenario: two people want to spend a day together or with a group, and they both have their own thoughts and opinions on what should be done that day. One person wants to schedule the day while the other person wants spontaneity. Being that one or both are in the higher thought plane, there is no drama or worry in their energy. Even if one gets off course and raises their voice or begins to physically show a certain stress level, they both can come to conclusion on how best to approach the situation. Higher awareness is simply being alert, in the moment, and aware of possibility. This is where individuality steps in and determines the differences. It is a lot like morals. What is morally okay for one individual may not be acceptable to another person. So only you get to say what your bad habits are versus the good. However, many times what you think are bad habits are really not bad. Additionally, you will find that as you change your thought life from a lower standard to a higher awareness, that you will straighten out in your conventional routine. Your actions will change once your thought life expands. And it will usually start with how you can help other people more than yourself. Many people that encounter addiction have low blood sugar. Hypoglycemia and diabetes are serious issues, and a licensed physician should be contacted immediately. When experiencing low blood sugar, you may lack energy, be quick to anger, and be irritated by the slightest things. So it is always best to get the proper diagnosis and the proper attention for this condition. 1. Coach. 2. Telephone. 3. Group text. 4. New clean friends. 5. Counselors. 6. Family. 7. Loved ones. There are many good books also. Many of these can be obtained by your close friends, therapists, and loved ones. First off, you want to make sure you differentiate rest and relaxation and laziness. Many people that come into sobriety for the first time want to change all of their habits and just relax, but sometimes this can be procrastinating rather than relaxing. Laziness can develop into a slump of anxiety or depression, and these are daft enemies when it comes to recovery. When it comes to rest and relaxation, you want to make sure that you have the right time and place. It can be helpful to set apart certain times of the day to unwind and decompress a little bit. Make sure that you plan for the day, the week, or the month for your downtime. Some people can afford to take a complete month out of every year, while others allow a weekend or even a date night with themselves. Some people like to plan using vision work or looking in the future of how their year will be and then going back 6 months to 90 days to one day. Other tools are day planners or calendars found on the internet or smartphones. Whatever tactic you choose, there is no wrong way to plan your day, just so long as you plan it. Some authorities consider these feeling mixed with emotion. The symptoms vary, but when the sensation of the two gets too overwhelming or demanding, then a professional should be called immediately. The muddled chaos that ensues can sometimes be destructive and sometimes even fatal. So when dealing with these symptoms, always have 2 or more people helping you through the process. Surveys show that 87% of back pain is caused by suppressed rage. And it is no wonder that rage is the #1 cause of family and friend dysfunction. There are many ways to deal with rage, but we are going to look at rage at a completely different angle. I want you to consider the possibility for a moment that suppressed rage is suppressed anger. And with that in mind, we can go deeper and consider the possibility that suppressed anger is simply suppressed irritation. And suppressed irritation is suppressed happiness, which is suppressed joy. And the only way to get to true freedom is to experience all of those emotions in your sobriety and enjoy the highs as well as the lows. This process is long and tedious, but over time it is well worth it. Taking care of yourself means applying all of the tools you have learned throughout your recovery process and applying them when appropriate. This is a good reason to have a coach, because sometimes we pick up a rake when we should really be putting down the shovel. Over time, many people make up their beds and walk again, but baby steps are the basics of all growth. As we begin to take action in our recovery process, the process will actually become a way of life and balance takes over. And although balance can sometimes appear to be something right out of our reach, it is actually closer than most people think. As real as this appears, it is mostly living in the fantasy that there was not a destructive path left in the addict's wake. Most people that experience this in early sobriety are experiencing the emotion of joy, but neglecting the reality that there are hurt family, friends, and loved ones waiting to reconstruct the relationship they had before all of the destruction. But the reality is the destruction is there, and sooner or later will need to be cleaned up. And sooner is always better than later. Consistent gratitude is something that can be achieved through living a clean and sober life. Once we go through a couple ups and downs and begin to see the roller coaster for what it is, we begin to develop the higher awareness of constant gratitude. Constant gratitude is not the pink cloud, although the pink cloud does have a hint of constant gratitude. The difference is, constant gratitude is when you have your head in the clouds and your feet planted firmly on the ground. The pink cloud is when you have your head in the clouds among other places. It is the false belief that everything is okay and life will never have its challenges, trials, or tribulations. Impending thoughts of doom are the opposite of consistent gratitude and is the soil that nurtures depression and despair. The main problem for most addicts centers in the midst of their every thought. This is the how and why we must achieve a higher thought plane. Impending thoughts of doom would be considered lower awareness and the evil corroding thread that blocks any possibility of gratitude, harmony, or peace of mind. It is so easy to try to think your way out of this dilemma. You can't meet the problem at the level of the problem. But you can't meet the problem at the level of the problem. There is no thinking your way out of this situation. You must take action. And this is where coaching and counseling can help. Once stuck in the cylindrical cloud of impending doom, you will need help to snap out of it. And this can be done with friends, family, and professional help.
There will be times when your emotions will feel as if they are going to rip you to pieces. It will not only be an emotional feeling, but a physical feeling as well. When emotions run rampant, it is best to deal with the physical aspect in the beginning. Going for a walk or doing jumping jacks in your living room is a good start. You need to get your heart pumping and your blood circulating when your emotions take over. For some people, this is impossible because they may be having an anxiety attack or a bout of depression. If any one of these are the case, then a certified licensed physician should be contacted immediately.
No matter what stage you are in your recovery process, it is always a good idea to be open-minded and willing enough to receive professional help. All the way from 1 day to 75 years clean and sober, professional help should always be considered when it comes to your mental and physical well-being. Remember, everyone uses different tools at different times. And even if we use the same tools, we may use them in a different fashion. So love your way and heal. The best guru you will ever meet is the one in your heart. So be still, be silent, and feel the feeling of complete and utter joy as you achieve peace of mind and stillness of heart.